It doesn't really matter where you sit. If you're living a really up life, it's not really worth it anyway. You can have $100 million and be fucking miserable.
Men think it's selfish to work on themselves. Go to the bottom of the barrel. Put your wife first, put your kids first, put your business first. Nothing left for you. That is a complete fucking lie.
You know, the one thing that I actually realized that helped me the most is...
What was your experience like dealing with this business stress and being all in business and communicating with your partners where it didn't work out? Like, what did that look like?
For women, you're either a trophy or you're a treasure, right? Love is not a destination, it's a journey. Men are being taught not to be men. And I'm like,
Introducing Luke Hecker, an AI automation specialist dedicated to enhancing business efficiency through advanced technology. With a strong presence on Instagram, Luke shares insights into AI automation, personal development, and his journey in building a personal brand. Join us as we delve into Luke's expertise and experiences in the realm of AI automation.
So today we have Luke Hecker, who is basically living the dream. He has built a business that is essentially running itself. Now he's got his second business that he's running alongside it. And he has been through a bunch of relationship challenges, stresses, ups and downs, as most men go through. So today we're going to be diving deep into relationships, into business, into balance, into life, and hopefully giving some insights, can't speak properly, and hopefully giving some insights into how to be an empowered man. Luke, how are you, brother?
I'm good, brother, and just thank you very much for having me on today. And if you're the listeners out there, I'm going to spit some fire at you guys today, so make sure you're listening in.
Yep.
And we're going to break this all down.
Fuck yeah, fire extinguishers ready. All right, bro, so for the listeners at home, do you want to tell us a little bit about your story, bro? Like, where did you start from? Like, what happened before? Where are you now? And how are things different? Break it down for us.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll jump straight into it. Career-wise, started my career as a builder about 10 years ago. Come to the Gold Coast. That was my first business I ever had. I currently had that for, that's coming up to 10 years now. What I do right now is I have an AI automation business. This is a business I started about 5 years ago. And it wasn't anything then. No one knew exactly what AI automation was and automating businesses. Essentially, yeah, it's where I can automate your business, but I want to take it back exactly like how I got to this spot and why I'm here right now, because you probably wouldn't expect me to be I have an AI automation business, and I started in the country. So I grew up in the Sheeran Sheds. It's a very small country town within Queensland, and people are always like, man, how'd you get to that's a journey in itself, that whole bit, which we're going to go through and break down today. But yeah, that's a little bit about like my career, what I'm currently doing right now. So whether we want to start right back here and how I came to the Gold Coast and what that journey was like, or do we want to start in like the business side?
Let's dive into that, bro. Let's go into like the stresses of business, because the listeners at home, they're high performers, they work a lot, they're stressed, their relationships are suffering, and they know life could be better. So as you've got to this point where most of us are working towards, which is some degree of freedom from your business, what have been the challenges you've faced as a man, as a business owner, as a partner over the last few years that have really tested you? Like what challenges have you been through?
Fuck, man, everything's been thrown at me. And essentially, the one thing that I actually realized that helped me the most is it's organized chaos. And I love it. It's beautiful. I think as a man, the one thing I've learned over the last couple of years is everything can be completely fucked up. I can swear on here, hey. It's going to be like that. And as a man, that you're going to take on those responsibilities, and that's just part of being a man, and that's going to be part of, running a business essentially. I guess what I've learned from being a man and being, in business roles and stuff like that, it comes down to my leadership, something I've been working on day in, day out, my leadership, my awareness, my ability to, show up in a way that other people can respect me, that are going to appreciate, what I'm putting out there essentially. And leading by example is, those key factors as well. But as far as like stresses go, what I've been through, fuck, I've lost a few relationships essentially to, me being too focused in my business. And yeah, I've probably lost 3 relationships now over my course of like my, career. Yeah. And that was all due to me having a business. And I guess I'll break down all these problems as well that I was going through. I was using my business as an out from my, relationship problems. It's a really good way to keep myself busy. And at that time, I didn't even know how to manage a relationship. I knew how to work hard. So when things got tough within my relationship, I diverted back to that because it was a really good distraction. And essentially that cost me 3 relationships, and they were all the same problems.
Yeah.
I've told this story quite a few times. I had an epiphanal moment where one of my last relationships back in like 2017 or 18, parted with a lady and literally sat down on this back end of my stairs, and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, that's another one down the drain. And I literally had to look at everything, and essentially it was the same problem every time. The reason breaking up was the same thing. And I'm like, it can't be them. It has to be me. So it was like a light bulb moment where I'm like, I'm the problem here. I have to get on my bike here and start sorting shit out. It's no use me, running from these problems, because they're going to affect my personal life, was affecting my business life, massively. And I couldn't even reach a level of freedom, financial freedom, success, clarity or anything if I wasn't taking care of home. It was like directly correlated with my, my experience at work, my everything that I could do within my business. Was my downfall was my relationship. So had a journey from there, which is men's medicine, which you guys are aware of. And that was like a pivotal moment for me where I went full hard into the work and trying to, I guess, better myself as well. So that's a bit of a backstory on it.
You seem quite aware, and a lot of guys listening to this, they typically don't change until it's too late, right? So like the wife says, I can't do this anymore, or their business suffers because they're imbalanced at home. You and I both know if your relationship's fucked, it comes into the business. And if your business is stressful, it comes into home. So for you, like at what point, you said it was the third time around, but were you aware during these relationship breakdowns that things were breaking? Like what were the symptoms? Was it arguments? Was it disagreements? Was it yelling and screaming? Was it a lack of intimacy? What was happening in the relationship that made you think, fuck, this isn't working? Was it the breakup or was it before then?
You know what? I could put it down to a few things, but essentially I was being a little boy. I wasn't taking ownership for shit. I was immature. I was in this little boy phase where I didn't care enough about anyone. I was very selfish and self-centered. And the moment I stopped doing that, I realized, I'm like, hey, you know what? I could have 10 relationships and all these exact same problems are going to be throughout them. So eventually you just got to really just stop and be like, fuck, I'm the problem. Let's get it sorted. I think the things that I was struggling with in those key moments when I was a lot younger and a lot, unaware, was my communication. My communication is poor. It's something I see for a lot of guys these days. Very poor communication. I think the things that really help me is understanding that, males and females, communicate in very different ways. And males, like, you can understand me. You kind of get what I'm saying. A woman needs a story. She's going to, obviously go through everything, as where I was very used to yeses and nos, very like limited communication. And I think that's essentially what was like the whole breakdown.
And was that in relation to business? Because I know for me with my marriage with Rosie, like I expected her to understand the pressure that I was under. So when I had a daughter, my daughter's 3.5, I was like, cool, I got to grind now. And I sacrificed time with my daughter, time with my wife. And then we stopped spending quality time together. And then when I was with her, I was stressed, I was grumpy, I was triggered. And I sort of like knew inside of me that things weren't working, but it took her breaking and like going, I can't do this. You're never around for me to change. And then when I did communicate, I'd often communicate by bottling it up. So she'd say, how's your day? Fine. What did you do today? Nothing. So like she didn't understand me. I wanted her to understand the weight of the world on my shoulders, but at the same time, I never told her what was going on throughout my day. What was your experience like dealing with this business stress and being all in business and communicating with your partners where it didn't work out? Like, what did that look like?
To be honest, it didn't look like anything. I didn't do any of it. I literally was the best at avoiding this whole conversation around the relationship in general. I was an expert at avoiding the whole lot. So there's no reason why. They had every reason not to be with me, because I'm telling you, I tried every trick in the book I didn't want to deal with anything. No talking, no conversating about it. When things got tough like that, I was out and about partying. I was like, shit, I ain't coming home because we're going to have a talk about this. And essentially I was in running mode. I was fight or flight. I was flight. I didn't want to deal with it. And it didn't only come at a cost of, my partner's, health as well. It also come at my health and also our financial stability as well at that time, because we couldn't seem to get a roll on. And that, those two stresses put together were, crazy. Do I think at that time, I look back at it now, those women are really good women. I just had really poor communication and leadership skills. Was I aware of it then? Yes. Was I running from it? Yes. And I think the key thing here was, how did I even come to the point of even trying to better myself? Like, what was it? Because, you as well and many others, we have this aha moment where we're like, enough is enough. We've got to do it. And for me, like, what is that moment, and why are we letting, not only ourselves, but other men push themselves to that point where they're breaking their partner? They've like, everything is, you literally have to hit rock bottom for you to go. And my question is to guys, and, also myself, is why be so stubborn and let things get to the point where they're chaos, marriages are breaking up, kids are being involved, businesses are going down the drain? Like, why is that? And it's probably more of a question to you as well. And I've been kind of breaking this down for a few of my friends. And why do we leave it to that point? That's
because we're liars, bro. Like, we're professional liars. As men, we are conditioned to suppress our emotions, suppress what we think. So then what we do is we bottle this shit up. Like you said, you would avoid it professionally. You don't avoid issues at work, you fix them, right?
Yeah.
But because we don't have the skill of communication you're talking about, we don't have the skill of knowing how to express ourselves, it gets bottled up. And we just spoke to Blake Worrell Thompson on the podcast before you about an hour ago, and he had a really good analogy. He's like, if you put a beach ball into the water and push it down, it will keep going, but there's a certain point where it shoots back up. That's how men are with their emotions. And you've probably experienced this. When you do that, you can't have a great business because you're fucking up the other parts of your life. So you have your health, wealth, and relationships. Most men sacrifice their health and relationships in the pursuit of wealth. It seems like you were living that story and you had to go through it 3 fucking times. Now, a lot of men avoid it until the pain gets too late, but this is a heartfelt plead to the men listening right now. If you are experiencing these problems, you're not communicating well, you're disconnected, you're stressed out, fix it now before it gets too late. So you had this aha moment of like, everything's fucked, I'm burning it to the ground. How did you start making these changes? Because I'm assuming it didn't come naturally to you. Like, you were a grinder, right? How did you go from grinding to having a business that runs itself and not fucking up relationships?
Yeah, man, it was a journey. And trust me, like, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Like, we have this pivotal moments. It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies, right? It was still a bit messed up for a while, but I had this clear vision in my mind of like, hey, I need to be better. And this is going to obviously help me long-term. One of the key things I really looked at, and I'm very, like, my awareness has always been really good, right? I looked at a lot of guys in my same kind of scenario at that stage. I might have been 25, 26. And I'm like, look, I can keep carrying on this journey right now. I'm probably going to end up with, a partner, a couple kids, divorce and stuff like that, and be at that late, 30, 32, and then be going for all that shit. I watch a lot of people go through phases, and I watch them go through all these certain phases, which is that phase. They probably get to about 35. They've either got 1 or 2 kids and they're partying from their partners. There's businesses involved and it gets chaos and it's a mess. That's what I would call phase 1. And phase 2 is where they get a new partner down the track and that keeps going. That's very common in today's society. But I always ask, like, why that first phase? Why is that happening? It's because they don't usually learn the first time. And there's all this shit that they're avoiding. They might learn it the second time. Who knows? But for me, I was consciously aware and knew that, look, if I don't make this change right now, this might actually delay the success of my financial success and my business success that I really want to have. So for me, it was more of like a long-term game plan, because I looked at my, my work ethic, my ability to grow, learn, and everything. And I'm like, the only thing that's really fucking it up is my relationships. And I'm like, okay. So at that time, I literally dropped everything, dropped my business at that time, and literally went full into men's medicine, which is what me and Lionel did at that time. And it was scary. I literally had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, fuck it. Let's go for the next 2 years and just really reinvent myself, dive into this as much as I possibly can. If I look back now, should have I got rid of my business at the time? No, but I'm just one of those sporadic guys. I'm like, you know what? We're doing it. We're going all in. I had all these people working for me. I'm like, fuck it. Let's go scrap everything. Left it all, handed off, my kind of construction business to everyone. And I gapped it. And I literally just went into personal development on like just as deep as I could possibly go. And back then it wasn't that popular. And you were back around then too. Like, you were doing it then as well. And there was very few of us out there doing it.
Before it was popular and cool, right? Yeah.
It was like, we're out here doing like men's health and like wellness and shit. And people were like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And back then it was even scarier because it was like so frowned upon. It was frowned upon for you, for a male to want to like look after yourself, you know, express what's going on, you know, try to work on your communications. And essentially what I did realize is there was no spots for us to learn this shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did no one ever teach us this? It's because, you know, it wasn't brought up, like no one in our fathers didn't teach us to communicate on this level. I know now that I can communicate on a very high level with women to the point where they kind of get a little bit frustrated with me, you know? So I've kind of like gone over that. They're like, I've had this before.
Yeah.
And I've kind of gone to the other side as well, where my level of communication is kind of on the other side, and I say it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're not used to it as well. And I guess essentially I'm like, why, like to the guys out there to listen, and you don't have to wait. There's no need to wait for it to get all crazy and messed up. And this is where you're probably going to lose 3 to 5 years of, you know, living a really good life, business, relationships, just because of your own stubborn and stupidity.
Yeah.
And I can fully sit here and say I was stubborn as fuck. Like
a lot of men are.
Yeah.
It's like there's now pain and later pain. So anyone listening to this who has business stress or relationship problems or can't communicate with their partner, we know in our heart of hearts that's happening, but the pain of changing it's painful. Like having that difficult conversation with your partner is painful. Taking time off work is painful. But the pain of avoiding it, which isn't in the here and now, therefore we avoid it, is way deeper. It's losing your kids. It's losing your business. It's losing your life. You mentioned something about dropping the business and going all in on personal development. I think we both know in hindsight that anyone listening doesn't need to do that. You can have both. You can have a successful business and make lots of money while also working on yourself, while also having great relationships. But I think the problem is that men think it's selfish to work on themselves. Go to the bottom of the barrel, put your wife first, put your kids first, put your business first, nothing left for you. That is a complete fucking lie. You got to put yourself first before your kids, before your business, before your partner. Why? Because when you put yourself first and upgrade yourself, upgrade your communication, your connection, understanding yourself, how you show up, everyone around you wins. So it's actually the most selfless thing you can do, which is the journey that you went on. Now, before we move on to the business and stress stuff, I do want to ask you, this happened for you 3 times. You mentioned that there's men out there, they lose their marriage, their kids are separated, it happens the second time around. Second divorces are a much higher statistical probability. So what were you hearing from these women? Like if a man's right now at home going, I think my relationship's okay, what are the warning signs of a lack of communication, a lack of intimacy? Like what were you experiencing? What were you hearing from these women? Just really quickly, if you're getting value from this podcast episode, I'd appreciate a massive favor. If you're watching on YouTube, give this a thumbs up, or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, give this 5 stars. It helps us reach more men, keep more families together, and get better guests onto the show. So if you're getting value, all that I ask is you take 5 seconds to give it a thumbs up or 5 stars so we can help more people and keep delivering you epic value.
Oh man, everything at that stage. But yeah, I will
fucking
narrow. Yeah. I was like, shit, I can't say it on camera.
No, you can say whatever you want, bro.
I won't throw them under the bus. No, essentially, I was like, you know what? I was just a stubborn motherfucker, hey, in every way. They were always telling me like, hey, you know, actually, it's a really good exercise, and this will explain the question that you asked. Where I did this exercise at a workshop one time, and the women were saying the same thing, where I went and got feedback from, you know, past relationships and women I'd been in a relationship. And the one question was to ask is, you know, what's something that Luke's doing in his life that, you know, he shouldn't be doing, or whatever it may have been. I literally rang all my ex-partners at that stage, and I was like, hey, what's the one bit of advice? And they literally said they all said the exact same thing. And this was kind of pissed me off too, because I was like, fuck you guys. It was like, Luke's trying to do everything by himself, and he needs to know how to accept help and let other people help him. And I didn't, they had no correlation. I literally called them all one after another. Like,
you sure they weren't talking to each other?
Yeah, beforehand? I was like, what the fuck? I was like, are these guys? And like literally in that 10-minute gap, I called all of them. They all said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, right. I can see the problem right now. And essentially that was the theme. I was trying to be, you know, I wasn't trying to accept any help from anyone. They couldn't help me. I couldn't help myself. And it was just a theme that rolled out through my life. I was trying to do everything alone. 1, because I didn't know how to communicate. 2, I didn't know how to express myself. in a healthy way where I'd either get pissed off or angry. And so people knew not to stay around me. I'm like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
Other than being like, okay, knowing what emotions are, calming myself, being able to have those, deep conversations with partners and all that stuff without being pissed off or being moody or getting, stressed out or taking it out on them. And that was my, I guess that was my like awakening point from there. I was like, okay, something's got to change.
Yeah. Well, if it doesn't change, you keep losing the fourth one and the fifth one.
Yeah.
And when kids are at stake and a business is at stake, it's even worse.
Yeah.
This speaks to this problem in society. And I think it came from the feminist movement and it's moved on into this day and age. Men are just belittled and put down, and they're told from a young age, don't cry, and boys shouldn't cry. So we suppress our emotions, and the suppression turns us into men who don't accept help, don't communicate, but it also creates sedation, right? Mental masturbation, overthinking, stewing in your problems, numbing yourself with alcohol, drugs, partying, screens, but also in your case, like work itself. So we have this epidemic in men of sedation, isolation, mental masturbation, procrastination, and it destroys us. It destroys us. Before you had this awakening and started to make these changes, how did you cope with stress? How did you deal with the pressure of business and a shitty relationship? Surely you weren't sitting there going, nah, it's all good. You knew something was wrong. How did you deal with that pressure on your shoulders?
Oh, it was all fucked up, man. I was dealing it with drugs and alcohol, and that was it. I was just going so hard on the weekends that didn't matter. That was my outlet, and it didn't matter. I'd go literally just from Friday to Sunday, Monday, that's it. And then I'll go back to work on Monday anyway. So didn't have to spend time with my partner. I didn't have to discuss things. But the stress itself, I guess my outlet at that time was just drugs and alcohol, partying, boozing it up, having a good time. But that came at a cost of everyone else around me as well at that time. So the stress was, I avoided it, but you can only avoid it for so long.
It's suppression and sedation. So you were like avoiding it and suppressing it. A lot of guys go into this weird haze, and it's this haze of complacency and Groundhog Day. And we wake up exhausted because we've been treating our bodies like shit. How did you feel day to day? Because I think a lot of guys listening can relate to, maybe they're not taking drugs and drinking. A lot of guys probably are, right? But maybe they're just exhausted or tired. Like, how did you feel day to day? Now that you understand yourself better, if you were to paint the picture of what the average guy feels and what you felt, how would you paint that picture so guys listening can go, that's where I am right now?
Oh, it's painful. I was like drowning every day. I was just keeping my head above water, and I was trying everything I possibly could. No one knew shit. It was like I was hiding it in every best possible way I could. But it was hard. It was hurting, but I didn't want to say nothing to no one. I was like, I ain't asking for help. Yep. I'm just going to keep on going through.
Yep.
And man, it creates such chaos in your life. And I'd want to touch on the one you said actually about the like the suppression of males as well. And this is something that's very rare in our society today with men as well. Men are being taught not to be men. And I'm like, the manly bit in you is the best bit about you. Don't hide it. Don't shame it. It is you. You are like that. It's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with it as well. And I've had another conversation about this the other day I have a lot of older, I guess, guys that are able to give me mentorship, in their 60, 70 and stuff like that. And we speak deeply in conversation. And I guess the conversation I had with them around this, because things are changing, today is very different to, 30, 20 years ago. Essentially what I've kind of noticed is the advice, let's say if you've got someone who's 60 right now, is going to give you advice to me, I might be 30. The advice that he's going to give me would be very relevant if the people that were in my age group right now had the same moral compass and same respects and same, upbringing and stuff. But the standards of people have changed a lot over the course of time. So this is where I found confusion at the start, where I was getting advice off certain different people, but it wasn't relevant for the people in my age bracket or my framework where, you probably heard it and seen it all before. Some old guy saying, you do this and you do that and you do that. That would work fine in your day and age when people had a different moral compass and different standards. But in today's day and age, it's fast paced, everyone's short term, and that doesn't work. You know what I mean? So that's something I've kind of come across recently, is like information, what you're saying about, things are changing, times are changing, males and so forth like that. the women, the business stuff, it's very different. Like back in the day, it was all handshakes. It's like, yes, yeah, everyone kept to their word. Everyone, was
Yep.
straight down the line. Those are very limited skill sets that are still available right now. Not everyone has those. They're very rare.
Yeah, well, we're not taught these things. Like, what are you taught to do as a man? You're taught to work hard, provide, shut the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
But in today's society, it's a very different landscape to that worked back in the day, right? Because there wasn't social media, there wasn't our kids vaping, there wasn't all the crap out there. In this day and age, women can be men and men can be women. And it's this fucking clown world where the nuclear family and old school, like you say, moral compasses and values don't exist.
Yeah.
My wife and I are happier than we've ever been. We've been together for 8 years, about to have our second daughter. I work hard and I provide. I provide a life of freedom for my family. My wife looks after the house. She cooks, she cleans. Every day when I get home, there is a hot meal for me. She gives me a hug. She says, "How was your day?" And I love it. Even to say that out loud, bro, right now is like fucking politically incorrect and bullshit. Now, hopefully that changes with Trump in power. MAGA 2024. Let's fucking go, baby.
Yeah, I seen that yesterday. I was like, let's go, Uncle Trump.
But the reason I bring this up is because tying it back to your journey of like working hard, suppressing, not sharing, trying to do it on your own, that is a very old school mentality. And I think a lot of guys listening right now don't realize that they can have both. You can have the business and you can have the balance and you can have the relationships. Where do you think that comes from for men? Like, where does that come from you? Is it from your childhood? And where does it come from the men that you've sort of worked with?
You know what? It comes from lack of understanding of what's capable and what, I guess what the standards are upon me. I've learned that from, watching older men, watching my dad, watching other people like that, seeing how they operate. I want to dive into this question before I forget it though, because it's a really good topic of what we're on. And I was trying to break this down maybe a couple of weeks ago with my partner and some of her friends. And I was explaining to her, as a man, you're only valued if you bring something to the table.
Yes.
And they couldn't understand it. And we had a very in-depth conversation where I'm like, and they were like, "Oh, no, that's not how it works." So I'm like,
that is exactly how it works.
I'm broke right now. I don't have anything going for me. You would not see me. I'm invisible. And I explained this scenario to her and her friends as well, where I'm like, most young men between these brackets of 17 to like kind of 22, you're invisible if you have nothing. Because in those times, you have nothing of value. You can't have, you don't have any value to offer to society. So I was trying to explain to them where, do you fully understand and realize that a male is only valued for what he brings to the table? If I have none of these things right now, I can't, make sure this fridge is full, all these houses and stuff like that. Are you guys all hanging out here? And they're like, they didn't want to say no, but they did say no in a roundabout question in about 5 minutes. And I'm said, I guess that's kind of the stress, and that's what's put on our backs right now. And I'm like, that's exactly what most men are dealing with. And you don't understand that we probably grow up with, and this is where a lot of business people do as well. I see this where, they're invisible until they're 25, really. They start making some money, start getting some, people start seeing them. Okay, great. And then you've got options. You've got, people coming to you. You've got a bit of, swing out there. But I guess it's the only time where, that is a stress that I'd never really fully comprehended or understand that that's very common in society as a male. If you don't bring anything to the table, you're not deemed valuable. If you're a woman, you don't have a job or something like that, it's quite normal. That's fine. I don't care where you work as a girl. That's fine. It doesn't
especially
change.
if you're pretty, you got value in the marketplace.
But if you walk in here and some guy hasn't got a job or anything like that, no women, you're not going to get any attention.
Yep.
So it's a matter about what you bring to the table. And that's a question I'm even asking you. I try to break this down and make, someone understand this as well.
Well, it comes from our childhood, right? Like, we're told to work hard and be men, but it's a really good point you raise, because as a man, your value is by what you bring to the table, and that's financially, but it's no longer enough to just bring financial value. So let's say you're 30, 40, 50, and bringing financial value, you were seen at the beginning of the relationship. But what happens 10 years in, and you keep buying the bags or the toys, it's no longer enough. Because women have social media now, and women see other men who have a healthy body, they got a six pack, they know how to communicate, they make great money, they look good, they smell good, they look after themselves. So then why the fuck would your wife stay with you? Why would you, like, when she has those options, because she loves you, that will only get you so far. There's a massive epidemic in this day and age of women staying with men until the kids leave the house and they divorce them. It's huge.
Yeah.
So I asked you where it comes from. It sounds like for you, it came from this pressure that you put on yourself. You know, my daughter's 3.5, and the first 6 months of her life, I went from being a boy to being a man. I thought I was a man.
Yeah.
I was a little fucking kid. So I went 6 months into grind mode in my business, busting my balls, did not see my daughter, did not see my wife. Then my wife pulls me aside one day, 6 months in, and I was also drinking every day to deal with the stress, pulls me aside and says, I can't do this. You're never around. I'm doing this on my own. I don't even know if I even have a future with you. And I didn't realize that because of the pressure that I put on myself from society and myself. So a lot of men have this immense pressure on themselves. I want to talk about, being invisible. Do you feel like you're invisible as a man if you provide money, or do you feel like you can be invisible as well if you don't communicate or if you're not stepping up in the relationship? Because I feel like money's no longer enough. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think like in a relationship, your communication is obviously important. Keep going on about the communication, but yes, you're going to be, you know what, with women, I don't think you're going to be invisible because they want to talk. But what you're going to do is you're going to be a pain in someone's ass.
Yeah.
It's not going away. I think the guys out there have got to understand that conversation, that hard topic, that conversation, the woman's not letting go of that. That's not going anywhere. It's just going to come back again. So you've got to have it. But yeah, to you saying like being invisible as a young male, like just because you don't know how to stand out, you don't know how to communicate, you haven't put yourself out there enough. Actually got a topic to talk about as well, because you've raised it with me before with like women in society. And do you know the trophies and treasure? So
no, I've never heard of that before.
Okay.
No.
Trophies and treasure, right? I broke this down for a woman that I know, really good looking, beautiful, in her prime. And I've helped a lot of women like get partners and relationships before, just in passing by people that I know. And there's a scenario of trophy and treasure, right? For women, you're either a trophy or you're treasure, right? Trophy's out on the shelf, treasure's hidden at home, right? You got treasure at home. That's your wife. Trophies, are women putting yourself out there as a trophy? And this woman is a trophy. And I had this conversation with her about her social media. I said, have a look at it. And essentially, yeah, she was marketing herself as a trophy. And we went through the males and relationships that she'd had. I'm like, you got trophy hunters chasing you down. Of course, that's what you're going to get. And and then the treasure, I'm like, you got to be able to put yourself in the treasure side of it as well. Because like treasure is what? You're not being provocative, you're very respectful, all the rest of the things that you're looking for in a partner. But as society, but it's so hard for women as well. I'm going to take both sides here as well, because I have these conversations with women about the pressures that they deal with as well. Being, if you want to be seen as a woman, is why we're talking about being invisible.
Yeah.
You can be very much invisible as a woman if you don't market yourself as a trophy.
Yeah.
As treasures get no attention. There's no love. There's no shine. You're invisible. The girls out here that are shining, taking all their clothes off, being very provocative, they're getting all the attention. So as a woman, you can feel very vulnerable and very lonely as well. And some deep conversations I've had with women and why they always go that way. And essentially, even for the guys, a lot of young dudes I've met, I'm like talking about girls and stuff like that. And I might find yourself a trophy, not some treasure. I might.
Yeah.
It's actually, it was actually an old dude I met at an event with me, and I had just come out of one of my last relationships, very public one. It was, it was shit house. It was one of the worst ones I've had. And he said, you took the light out of the room, hey? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, you walked in and he said, you took the hottest girl in the room, hey? And I said, yeah, I pretty much tried. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was a trophy hunter. And essentially what he said was like, man, you don't take the hottest girl in the room. He's like, next to him, there's going to be some treasure around there, which is like a girl that's a little bit quieter, more settled, more like in that environment essentially. Yeah. And that was a bit of advice I took. And ever since I took that advice, both of those, the trophy, treasure, taking a light out of the room, it's actually been really good. And I've had a lot more success. But yeah, essentially even to, going back in the failed relationships as well, a lot of it was me, but I was a trophy hunter too. I was
Yeah.
out there chasing down it because it was a failed success on both sides as well.
Yeah.
It was like, my choice of selection as well was really, really poor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the kind of like, duality between the women as well being invisible and the males being invisible, with kind of like, they're both dealing with the same problems. The social media causes a lot of this as well.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
also, like a lot of the guys listening in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they're not super young. I mean, we might have some guys. I can see how this treasure principle and invisibility principle would apply to those guys, because if you think about it, what do men want? Men want respect, they want appreciation, they want support, they want sex, and they expect that from their partner because they're making money. Now, the partner doesn't give it to us. So misery comes from unmet expectations. So I worked hard, I made all this money, I had a stressful day, I come home, I want you to suck my dick, right? Like, we don't say that, but
That's
anyone
what we want.
listening, that's what we want. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we want. We want peace,
That's
we want
me.
respect, we want you to touch me and give me sex. Now, it's not that intense, and we will, be a bit more low key about it. But then the man feels invisible because he's not getting that from his wife. But why are you not getting that from your partner? Because she feels invisible. Like, think about at the start of a relationship, how hard we try. We date that person, we take them out to dinner, we communicate with them. And then for a lot of older guys, like, they have kids, the businesses grow, they have more stress. Now the wife is getting none of the things she used to get. So now she feels empty, you feel empty. And it's really the role of the man, like you said earlier, personal development and reflecting, it's all on me. As a man, stepping up and going, fuck, I've got this treasure at home. And the reason that this treasure isn't working is because I'm not the fucking treasure. Like, men expect everything, but they're pieces of shit a lot of the time. I used to be.
Drop off. Fucking just be a piece of shit. Sit around, do nothing, be
Exactly.
lazy.
And expect her to love you and stay with you. And this is the fucked up thing. Money is not enough. So this ties perfectly into this idea of personal development. Let's say you're a guy listening to this. You can relate. You're not the treasure for your partner. You are stressed. You work too much. You can't communicate. You have the money, but you don't have the success everywhere else. Personal development is the answer. You and I know that. Getting a coach, being around other high-performing men, having mastery in your health, wealth, relationships. How does a man who isn't the treasure, who has these same issues you had, how does he start personal development? What does that mean? Like, what do you do?
Great question. You know what? And the beautiful thing about this question and how to answer it is, it looks different to everyone else. And to the listeners out there, it's going to be a little bit fucked up. This journey of you stepping in and trying to grow yourself, it's not perfect. You're going to fuck it up. It's going to look really weird. It's going to be very, very uncomfortable. The main thing is you got to start before you're ready. There is no perfect time. There is no, I'll get on to it next week. The most important thing you can do right now, especially if you're a male struggling, you have no idea, you don't know where to start, reach out, just start getting involved with those communities. The first point is just to drop the ego, drop all the fucking bullshit and be vulnerable and go, you know what, just take your hands off the wheel and go, fuck it, I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to start hanging around some people to get better my life. And just understand that whole process, it can look very different to many other people, and it's fucking shit. And it's hard, it's difficult. No matter what you do, if you're going to go into personal development as a male, it is going to be super uncomfortable and you're not going to like it. Accept it. That's part of the process, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Every time I've stepped into some personal development, really, like, I used to reinvent myself to the point where it was so uncomfortable, and diving into, personal development, courses, training, whatever it was like every time I was just killing this old version of myself, and it was the most uncomfortable, fucked up thing I always had to do. But I knew if I did it, at the end of it, I was going to obviously benefit myself and everyone else around me. So for those guys out there on the fence, it doesn't look perfect. Fucking start. Just pull your finger at your ass and just go for it. Like, it's crazy.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode and you want to learn how you can have a better relationship, a better marriage, you can be a better father, husband, the man you know your family deserves, then it's very fucking hard to do that just by listening and getting fed information. Sure, this is valuable, but what's much more valuable is having a custom roadmap and a custom plan. And that's exactly what we do here at The Empowered Man. So if you want to learn how to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, and find work-life balance, then that's exactly what we want to help you with. We'll help you make more money, working less hours, have that life you deserve by becoming unfuckwithable. Just tap the link down below in the description and go and book a coaching session with my Empowered Man team. On that session, we'll build your custom Empowered Man roadmap to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, find work-life balance, and have the life you deserve. Click the link down below right now. I think a good way to look at it is like, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror. Like, it doesn't require 3 breakups or your wife leaving or a heart attack or 20 years of business only to burn out and lose it all, burn it to the ground. It's looking in the mirror and going, you know what? Am I happy with my life? Like, sure, I've got the house and the car and the nice things. Sure, I'm successful in one area, but it takes so much courage to look in the mirror as a man and go, you know what? My life isn't working. My marriage is fucked. My health is fucked. I'm depressed. I'm stressed. And once you look in that mirror and realize the truth of what's not working, to make a commitment to yourself to go, you know what? I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to upgrade myself. And it's hard to do that because as men, let's be honest, we don't give a shit about ourselves. That's why we get fat. We don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you give a shit about your loved ones? Do you give a shit about your family? Do you give a shit about your partner? If the answer is yes, reinvent yourself and upgrade yourself. We upgrade our phones. We upgrade our cars. We spend 70, 80 grand on a car. You got a beautiful Beamer out there, right?
Yeah.
How much do we invest in ourselves? Fuck all. Can't afford it. Don't have the time. And when you commit to upgrading yourself for you and your loved ones, it will be, like you say, so fucking painful. Do you remember when you were younger and you used to have growing pains in the back of your knees? You remember that?
Yeah.
It was super fucking uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? That's growth. When you go to the gym and lift weights and fucking do 1,000 bicep curls, your bicep grows. We get to become as men comfortable with pain. Like, have those difficult conversations, communicate when you don't feel like it, challenge your beliefs, and you'll get pushed past your growth edges. But over a day, a week, a month, a year, you become someone else. You reinvent yourself, right?
Yeah.
So in your journey of reinvention, I'm assuming there was a lot of like not communicating, etc., but also procrastination. There's a lot of men who procrastinate, right? They mentally masturbate and overthink. They'll listen to this, go, this is fucking great, Tony. Luke, that was awesome. And then they just put it off, kick the can down the road. How did you go from procrastination and not changing to committing? Like, what did you do to fix that?
Oh, yeah, that was a hard one. That was a hard transition. I want to touch on that point that you just touched there as well for the growth and the pain bit.
Yeah.
This is how I used to know that I was growing and things were painful.
Yeah.
And I was actually progressing. I used to watch my old content and old videos of me. And if I watched it and I was cringy at it, that mean I grew. If I watched something like from a year ago and I wasn't cringing at it going, oh, fuck, that guy didn't really know shit or whatever it was, I was like, you haven't grown enough. And that's why I always watch like old videos or, old learnings and stuff that I did. I record myself a lot. And if I'm not cringing, I'm not growing.
So just really quickly on that point, anyone at home, because these guys might not record themselves, like they can look back, where was I a year from now? And if you don't look back a year from now at your relationship, your body, your business and go, fuck, who was that guy? That was not who I wanted to be. Basically, you're saying you're not growing enough.
You're not growing.
That's such a good frame.
Fucking
so
pull
powerful.
a finger at your ass. If you're comfortable with who you were a year ago, that means, and you're still unhappy now where you were, that means you ain't changing and you're staying in the same spot. Every year I look back, or every time I look back at an old video, I'm like, shit, I'm not even close to that same person.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's okay. But you're going to probably, people that don't change and are in these situations that you're talking about now, the people around them want them to remain the same as what they are. But that's okay. You don't need to be the same as what you are. Be uncomfortable with looking back at yourself and going, fuck, I've come so far from there.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that, except that it's a beautiful spot to be in. It means you're growing. It means you're always evolving and changing. Either the people that are around there that don't want you to change and be, want you to stay the exactly same, it's because they want you to stay the same because it doesn't push their boundaries as a human being to grow and progress. So it's better to try keep you there as well.
Yeah.
So know that if you're getting, discomfort from friends or family or people, are you trying to better yourself, that you're actually getting out of that crab pot, as I would call it.
Yeah.
You're starting to get out of there. So that's a beautiful spot to be in also. And it's also a spot where there's the most uncomfortable bit where you try to, separate yourself from that as well. And essentially what you'll find is if you are strong enough in your leadership, in your empowerment and your growth, and you go for that journey, you may be a little bit lonely. But eventually they all come and join you because they know you're at the spot. So, and it takes someone, with enough balls and enough guts and enough, grit to actually go through that and go stand there and be like, this is where I'm going to go right now. You guys want to join me and want to stay in misery? Yes, no. Eventually they do. And I'm a product of this as well. I was in a lot of shitty communities, and in the past, like over 5-10 years, they've all eventually like crept up. And I'm like, I knew it would come. They might have taken 1 year, 2 years, 5 years.
Yep.
It was uncomfortable. I was lonely because I was, stood out like a sore thumb, and now eventually they all come to.
You ascended, right?
Yeah.
And this is a lot of men have this right now. They either are lacking a community of men, so they're lonely as fuck. They just have business and grind, or their community is men who want to drink, or men who want to talk shit, or men who want to talk about the footy. Now, if you want to talk about the footy, that's fine, but it's not growth, right?
Yeah.
Like today, I've listened to 3 podcasts while driving around and preparing for today because I'm constantly trying to grow. I think as well for men, that's where confidence comes from. Like when you do the hard shit and you have the difficult conversation, you say you're going to get fit after you've put on 30 kilos and it's fucking raining outside, you committed to going for that run and you put the shoes on and run anyway, then your wife, your friends, your loved one, no one around you can tell you you're not the man in that moment. And you do those reps enough times, what happens is you start to believe that you're changing. You start to believe you're strong enough. Your partner sees it, your loved ones see it, your family sees it, your community sees it, and it brings people along the journey. One thing a lot of our clients experience is their wives want them to change, right? They want them to change, but there are also wives who don't want them to change because it means they get left behind. So when I began my personal development journey, I grew really fast. And because I grew fast, I wanted my wife to grow fast as well. Now, instead of being supportive in my growth, I would be judgmental towards her for not coming on the journey. Now, she's an insecure woman who's been cheated on by her ex. How do you think that makes her feel? So I think it's this balancing act of commit to yourself, upgrade yourself, build self-respect, build grit, build confidence. But that's also going to start to influence the people around you. The mistake I made was I pushed it on my wife instead of bringing her on the journey. Fast forward to today, she's on the journey with me. She's doing personal development. We're growing together. We're communicating better. And the best part is we're passing these lessons on to my daughter. So she's seeing a healthy relationship. So
can I ask a question on that? So
of course,
because it's a good question, you know, and I know this as well because like I know that this is a question that I've been asked with, you know, men before as well. You spoke about getting your wife on board and getting that, you know, getting that process. How does that look? Because I visually know how it looks, but a lot of guys are like, okay, I'm going to go for it, and they go for it, and then they're going to struggle to do what you did there. And I know that that's going to be one of the hardest bits to be like, okay, there's a disconnect, you know, they're going to go this way. How do they bring it with her? Because that's going to involve not only a bunch of communication skills, but also coaching and a bunch of like, you know, your leadership skills eventually to get that woman on board as well. So that's a hard process as well. And I think that's where I want to ask.
Yeah, let's dive into this. Is fucking epic. It's a great question, brother. And I appreciate you asking it. So think about it like this. Relationships are like train tracks. Okay. So if those train tracks are aligned, the relationship can keep going and it can become a bullet train. You can achieve your goals 10 times faster in China, 300 kilometers an hour, fucking bullet train. Now, as soon as those train tracks diverge, that train can derail. And this is what happens in most relationships, intimate, with our children, etc. If we're not aligned and moving at the same pace, it derails. So in the case of my relationship, what I used to do was complain to one of my coaches. I'm doing personal development. I'm working on myself. I would just bitch about my wife. So I would tell my coach how my wife was fucking not giving me this and not doing this and not doing this. So my coach asked me, well, do you want me to jump on a call with her and do some work with her? Now, this is what most men would do. Hey, I've got this person you need to talk to so you can sort your shit out. Didn't say that. I framed it because framing is everything communication. I said, hey, I've been talking to Kristen, my coach, and she, no pressure, but she was wondering if you wanted to do a free session. She's offering a few free sessions. And I thought it might be valuable for our relationship to help me be a better partner. So I made it about the benefit for my wife for you to do that. So my coach and my wife get on a session together, and my wife is now allowed to bitch about me because now she has somewhere to communicate it because we didn't know how to communicate it. She ends up working with her. They've been together for 2.5 years as coach and client. And now she starts listening to podcasts. She starts developing and learning. At the beginning, I tried to force it. I'm like, I forced my wife to grow. You can't force it. I removed the judgment because love is the absence of judgment. And I asked my wife to come on the journey with me. And I was prepared for her to say no. But I also knew that if she said no, there was a possibility we would diverge and separate. So my wife could have decided not to come on the journey and we wouldn't be together today. We wouldn't have a child and a second one on the way. I think a lot of couples and relationships, they grow apart, they don't grow together, and they don't develop themselves. A healthy marriage, a healthy relationship is you both grow and you both grow together. You grow separately and you grow together. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's like,
it does.
it's growth together,
Yeah, it does.
You know?
It answers the question that I always I ask people as well, like what is love and what is love to you, and how does it visually look? And it's very similar to what you're talking, because there's actually a guy, explained this to me, a very old dude, Mon Whaley is his name, and essentially love is not a destination, it's a journey. And what you're talking about there is the journey of life, because the love that you had when you first met someone is not going to be the love that you had with someone after you've had a kid. So love is not just a destination, it's this journey through life. And as you go through life, it changes and it grows, and that's where some people can get separated, because the love changes and it gets separated. So it's important to make sure that everything's communicated very well, and that we're on the same mission, the same journey, because we become separated. And people are like, no, we were in love. Yes, you were in love, but that was a very different time ago. The love then was very different to now. So what happened in between now and then that created that separation? So for me, that's how I always explain love. It's not a destination. People think, okay, I'm going to get married, we're going to be in this, like I got married right here.
Yeah.
We're in that bubble forever. No. That is consistently moving, and it's evolving and changing. You have kids, you have people come in your life, out of your life, careers change, etc. So love's not a destination, it's a journey.
I love that. And on that point, man, like no one gets married or gets into a relationship and falls in love and goes, man, I cannot wait to fuck this up. I can't wait to separate, move my shit out of the house, lose my children. Like I'll get down on one knee, and while you're on one knee, you're giving the ring and you're going, fuck yeah, like marry me. But in 20 years, like let's separate everything. No one fucking does that, right?
Get out of it.
And it's so true, man. You raised a good point. Like when Rosie and I had our daughter, we were children, and we had to go through so much pain and so many difficult conversations and so many tears and so many nights where we're sitting on opposite sides of the bed, facing the other way. I'm thinking about how much of a bitch she is. She's thinking about how much of a cunt I am. But we would never go to sleep without resolving it, ever. That was a rule for us. And we had the first conversation, the 20th and the 100th. And then we started working on each other and we grew together. And it was so fucking painful. But now we're in a world where we love each other more than we've ever loved each other after 8 years. We're still intimate and having sex. When she's tired, she puts in the effort. She respects me. I support her. And I think a lot of people listening don't even think that's possible. It's like, it is possible, but it requires a lot of fucking work. But do you know what else requires work? Being lonely, separating your assets, going through 3 separations, right? Fucking not being able to communicate. It's all work.
Yeah.
So pick your fucking heart.
It's hard. Hey, you know what? You just prompted a really good. There's a book called Love and Respect, and if you're out there and you're a guy and you want to help with if I read this book long ago, I would have probably never had another relationship again. It was like a hit home for me. And it's just, I'll break it down a little bit, but it goes into love and respect. Men need love, respect, and women need love. But essentially, we see them, they're the same thing, but we perceive them as different ways. Like the women needs to be respected. We get on this like cycle of, oh, he's not loving me, she's not respecting me. So it's a crazy cycle. We keep going around and round and round. And it's the crazy circle. And essentially, you've got to be like, okay, she just needs to be loved. Great, I have to stop it. And it's on both parties to stop it as well. And the book goes into it in very, very deep depth, but essentially it's the love and respect. We see it, I'm wanting respect, she's wanting love. So it's important that, you give her love and she gives you respect. And I think that's me learning that duality, as that's really what I wanted out of my partner, was her to respect me.
Yes.
And then how do I, get her to respect me, or, obviously teach her and make her understand that respect is what I honor and need the most out of everything.
Yeah.
And then also her love as well. How does she want to be loved? And what does that look like for her? And then also when we're in that fighting phase and, love, not being loved, not being respected, a lot of these fights happen. Okay, great. What do you want? Okay, great. You want to be resolved. And that's it essentially. So
understanding, bro. It's like understanding. Like we want respect. What does that mean? Like, does your partner actually know what respect means for you? Because what it could mean to her could be completely different to what it means to you. And it's like, I'm giving my wife love. I bought her something nice. I put food on the table. Maybe she just wants you to listen at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
You probably fall into this trap. Like when your wife's complaining or bitching about something and you just try and fix it. Because as men, we're fixers.
I'm like, get this shit done. Let's go.
Yeah,
1,
like
2,
this. So
3.
this is what we're gonna do about it. I got taught this, I think, by James, my videographer and best friend. I think he said this and somebody else said this, is like when your partner's complaining or bitching and moaning, what you would have done in the past is just close off or try and fix it, is to just ask your partner in a non-judgmental way, babe, I hear you right now. Is this you want to just vent conversation and I'm happy to listen, or do you want me to help you find a solution? And then my wife will almost never ask for a solution. She just says, I want to share it with you. And then I have to like hold on to my fucking fixer and be like, all right, I'm not going to fix this, and just listen. But just being able to look in her eyes and hear her after the long day, that's challenging.
Yeah.
So I want to tie it back then to this idea of procrastination and connection. At the end of the day, your partner's talking to you. You know that you're not connected. You know you're stressed. You know you're busy. All the shit you were dealing with that ended your relationships is happening. How do you stop procrastinating on a solution? How do you start fixing these issues and stop kicking the can down the road? What's worked for you?
Man, I got a mentor. It's literally like as sharp as I can give it, go find help, because I didn't know the answers. I could sit here and say that I did at the time, which I probably do now, but really, if I was to fast track something like this, I would literally just go find a coach or someone that could help me get there as well. Because I could give you 1,000 suggestions now, and you guys like listening, whether they're in that spot, in that situation, you're going to procrastinate on it so much. A coach, someone that's going to help you, is really going to get you uncomfortable straight away. And they're going to be able to identify these key issues as well. But that's literally the best advice I can give there, is literally just go get someone to give you some help straight away. You know, leverage whatever resources you can get to obviously start, you know, applying that to someone that can upskill you and educate you as well. I've, like you as well, many people, I spend so much money on like personal development. It's not funny.
What's the ROI you reckon, like return on investment? Let's say you've spent, how much do you reckon you spent on coaches, mentors and support?
I probably spent 300 grand.
And what do you reckon it's returned you in terms of business success, happiness, relationships? How would you quantify that return?
Fuck, it's not even close to it, man. I don't even like the
10x.
quality of 100x easily. And I'm not even trying to be like, you know, overboard if that's easily. I know that I've met many people as well that, you know, earn way, way more money than me and, you know, older than me, have all this shit right. And I know that I live a far better quality lifestyle without shitting on them or anything than what most of them do as well. Because I've been through this scale of people with zero money and then shit tons of money, and down that whole spectrum. It doesn't really matter where you sit. If you're living a really shitty, fucked up life, it's not really worth it anyway. You can have $100 million and be fucking miserable. I know, because I've met a bunch of those people as well, and I'm like, shit, okay. Now I'll go back down the line again to someone that's just a, you know, multi-millionaire. And I'm like, okay, same problems anywhere. So you can be in any one of those situations and in spots in life, and you can still be unhappy no matter what. So investing in you right now and this person that, you know, is going to be able to carry you through this life, your mental stability, your emotional stability and everything is so crucial and important. And I just don't think that, even to explain to guys, you're going to have some that you think, you know, personal development journeys that are not going to be better than others. I think the main thing is to just stay on it and just keeping the work no matter what. Just keep turning it over. It gets better. Some experiences will be better than others, but the ROI in it, I would never not do it now. It's the same thing. Like someone says, hey, let's go do this, you know, event or something like that. I'm like, cool, let's go. Sweet. Done.
Yeah, just take action now.
I'm like, fucking just go for it.
Yeah, because the reason I asked that question is a lot of guys procrastinate so much and they overthink and they don't take action. So we have about, you know, 30, 40 guys a week talk to us on the phone, tell us that things are breaking down, they're stressed, they have no time, they've lost connection, they can't communicate. And then we offer them the opportunity to work with us. And we have payment plans as low as like $100 a week. It's not fucking expensive, right? And we hear the same shit over and over again. I'm about to lose my family. Everything's fucked. Cool, man. Do you want to do this? I can't afford it. I don't have enough time. I need to ask my wife, right?
Oh, fucking stop being a pussy.
Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, like I get it. And I feel
it.
the same way, but I also empathize with them because I think they're just stuck in fear. And as men, it's weird. We take action in our business and we make money, but we don't take action on ourselves and our loved ones.
Yeah.
So it sounds like for you, what's really helped is having a coach and a mentor to hold you accountable, right?
Yeah.
Now, you ran men's medicine with Leonard. That's been hugely successful. It's helped thousands of men, just like Empowered Man has. If there's a man listening to this right now and they know they need to get a coach, what can they expect? Like what does a day look like? So you're a busy guy, you're stressed, you can't communicate, relationship's fucked, you're unhappy, things aren't working. Like if you're one of the guys listening right now and you experience that, you don't need us to tell you. What sort of changes did you start to see in yourself in terms of your communication, in terms of your energy, in terms of your performance in business? What changed? Like, paint the picture. What does a day look like now compared to before? Because you have a business that runs itself, right?
Yeah.
That's unheard of for most guys.
A couple different
paint
businesses.
the picture. Amazing. What does your relationship look like? What does your health look like? How do you feel? Like, paint the picture for me of why I should do this. Day
and night is what I can say. The lifestyle I was living then was so fucking shit compared to now, and I'll explain what that looks like. It was just chaos everywhere. Now if I look at my relationships, my business, everything like that, it is all directly correlated to me going into personal development, working on my relationship, working on myself. So what that looks like for me now, I literally live a lifestyle that I want. I have a couple different businesses. I get to go wherever I want. I eat whatever food I want, whether it's healthy food as well, not shit house food. My relationship is amazing. I have a beautiful partner that loves and respects me massively, and I never even thought I would get to that stage. Stress-free. She supports my mission, supports her vision. She's on board with everything that we're doing. She's very supportive, and I never even thought I would, was even not only worthy, but that was possible for me, like maybe 5 years ago. But I look back at that now, and I'm like, shit, man, I got a really, really good quality life. And yeah, man, I just think if you're in that spot right now, for guys, you don't have to stay there. That's for one. But you're going to probably try stay there if you're stubborn and you not want to learn. That's fine. But for how long? Ask yourself, for how long? What are you going to stay there for? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? It's up to you, man. You got to freaking, you got to start making changes right now. And like me and Lenore witnessed this with men's medicine. They all had the same problems. They all come together and they're like, oh, okay, I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with that. I'm like, guess what? Everyone else here is this too. I'm like, it's the same shit. Why is it not all like, let's start taking some action. I think that's where, where we come back to this conversation about getting involved with groups, getting involved with, coaches and stuff like that, is why that's so important. But yeah, hopefully that kind of answered your question.
No, that's perfectly. So what I'm hearing you say, and what a lot of people probably heard, is like, you go from stressed, can't communicate, shit relationships, don't know how to switch off, don't know how to deal with it, drugs, alcohol, sedation, pretty much like 90% of men.
Yeah.
To feeling good, healthy, freedom. That's a word you didn't say, but you have freedom, financial freedom, time freedom. You have a partner that respects and appreciates you. These are two night and day things.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of men don't realize is the path from where they are right now, point A, to where they want to go, point B, is dictated by one thing. And that's the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
And you upgraded the man in the mirror. You developed yourself. You invested in yourself. And it doesn't need to be 300 grand.
Yeah.
It can be a couple of $1,000, $5 grand, 10 grand. Doesn't matter. What you spend on your iPhone each year to upgrade it. And that investment in you shifted your identity. And I think this really comes down to identity. If you're a man who doesn't have your dream life, you can change that, but it requires you to change. Nothing changes until you change. Do you have any perspectives around identity for men? Because I know my identity for so long has been a business owner and a provider, but it hasn't been a healthy human, a happy human. And that's something I'm shifting. How has identity played into you going from where you are to where you want to go when you combine it with that community and also investment in yourself?
I think just to answer that, there's a identity shift phase that I went through when I was a builder, right? And I left the building industry for a certain period of time. And I was obviously doing men's medicine. We were, working on ourselves. And I had this complete identity shift where I didn't realize that I was able to, I guess, evolve into a different human being and wear some different hats, whether I was, working in the coaching space, working in the building space, having a business owner. So I secluded myself to one personality and one, okay, I can't change. I have to be, I'm Luke the Builder. I can't. And there's a massive identity shift when I guess for me, I let go of all the names and the bullshit. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to try to live the best life I can possibly live, regardless of anything, because I had all these expectations put on me of okay, you got to be this way, you got to be that way, you got to be this way. I'm like, you know what? The main objective here is no matter what identity I'm trying to identify with or whatever, that I make sure that I build the best quality life that I could possibly build. And then I'm sure that everyone else around me, sees a replica of that and that they're able to experience me. And by me expressing myself in that way, that they are also going to be a reflection of me as well.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about. Why do we work so hard? Why do we expand as men? It's because we want to create an empire. right? Kings build kingdoms, right? Business owners just build businesses. It's not about building a business. It's about building a kingdom, building an empire. And it's ironic because every man knows this in their heart. They just haven't unlocked it yet. Our family, our wife, our partner, our children, our team, and our businesses or careers, they deserve the best version of ourselves. But so do we.
Yeah.
We deserve to be a man who can communicate. We deserve to be a man who has mental freedom and emotional freedom, who understands himself. And again, that all comes down to working on you. That is the key takeaway here. Like, work on yourself, invest in yourself, upgrade yourself, and everything around you shifts. You make more money working less hours. You have more sex, more respect, more appreciation. You have it all, right? You have it all. So I want to end on something that you taught me a few years ago, because when I knew you, you were the planning and productivity guy, like journaling and planning, and like you were so organized in your business. And I look at you a few years later and your businesses pretty much run themselves and you have freedom. It's a Friday. You're not working today. You're here with me. You're building a personal brand.
I've had 2 coffees today.
Yeah, good on you. You're just fucking
different
like
coffee
vibing.
shops.
Yeah, exactly. So like a lot of men are like, that's not possible. Talk to me about, we've got personal development, working on your relationships, communication, community, all these things come together. How does a busy male who has no time, who's constantly stressed, plan and prepare his day, week, month, and year to a year from now be someone different? How do you start that?
Okay, great. I'm gonna do this so that I can reverse exercise,
Sure.
and this like people say, heck is my name, systems are my game. I love systems, right? It's why I'm in AI and I do automation for businesses. So this is a good exercise that I got taught a long time ago by a guy that made a lot more money than me at the time, was very educated, right? Get a piece of paper, split it straight down the middle, right? Left-hand side, write everything that you do, right? This might be your job, walking a dog, gymming, blah, 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 whatever it is, all the side hustles, all the shit, the scrolling on social media, the whole lot, write it down on the left side. And then next to each thing, right? Yeah, all the stuff that you're doing, write an hour next to it, how long it takes, right? And then on the right-hand side, write down how long it would take to do that task and do that item or whatever it was at a very, very high level, right? What you should come up with is either side. You might have, for me, when I did this exercise, I had 250 hours added up. And I was like, okay, fuck, I've only got like 84 hours a week maximum. And that's at 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So essentially what you're going to do is, and this is why this is the first process when I break someone's week down and like trying to get out of that, right? Most guys are trying to do too much shit, not executing on anything. You're doing too much stuff. You're not even at that skill or ability where you can even handle all that stuff. So if you look down this side, I did this exercise with someone yesterday too, actually, one of my staff, and she had like 120 hours or something on one side. I'm like, you only work 40 hours. You only work 20 with me. How are you going to fit all this shit in there? And then the other side was like way more. So essentially as males, before we try to get organized, before we try to do all these things, what's on your plate and what doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Because if you can offload that, it's going to be amazing. You can't do 1,000 things. You can't do all the things that you're trying to do. So you spread too far thin, and just imagine you as like a light, right? Your creative light, your energy, who you are. And if you spread that over 20 things, it's diluted. So when you pull it all back and you remove some things, now you're going to see some clarity. And that's where I start, one. But then to go down exactly what I would do, as always, win the morning, win the day. Nice, easy morning routine that serves you, that you can do anywhere, is always a good start. Journaling's a really good start as well. Having a basic calendar, being like, okay, I'm going to do this at this time, this at this time. Try find some structure. As a male, we thrive on structure. Just block spaces in time is really good. Setting some goals. So 3 goals a day. I just write 3. I keep it simple so it works.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it going out crazy is, you're destined for disaster. I always run with this model. If anyone, I'm like, keep it simple, so fucking simple that you can't fuck it up. Yep. Keep it work. There's one thing actually I do. There's a mantra thing. I don't really share this to many people, but in the morning in the mirror, it's something I say to myself every day. I'm like, and this sets my day for me. I'm like, okay, what do you want from today? How can you improve today? And who are you currently and who do you want to be? And for me, that sets the tone for the day, because if you're changing it every day, you're probably on the wrong mission. Who are you? What do you want to be? And you want to go through those questions, and it should have a consistency every time and every day. You want to be asking, and it's in the mirror. It's mirror work. I do it every morning.
All mirror work.
Take
Everything we
3
talked
big
about
breaths.
today is mirror work, just without a mirror sometimes.
And you want to set some clarity for yourself, and it's okay to have those conversations with yourself as well. So those are like basic tools that I use to obviously get myself organized, journal, schedule, fucking 3 basic goals for the day.
Yep.
And you know what life's about too, especially if you're in this situation where it's really shit and things aren't going your way. It's about little wins. Don't try, right, I'm going to make $100,000 this month or whatever it is. So, okay, cool. I might make, $100, whatever it is. Purposely put some shit in there that you know that you're going to do so you can start building some momentum, because momentum is everything. And once you get a couple small wins, keep stacking wins. If you're in this really shitty spot right now, and I've pulled myself out of so many shitty situations, all I do straight away is I'm looking for momentum and I'm looking for easy wins, and I'm trying to stack those wins as quickly and as fast as I can, because that's going to build my momentum, and that's always got me shaking and moving like really quick. So yeah.
Powerful, bro. So much to unpack here. So we ran an event in the Gold Coast with about 100 men. Some of them make tens of millions of dollars a year. Some of them make over $100 million a year. And it was fucking fascinating to me, because these are guys who have the money and success, but their marriage is breaking down, or their health is fucked, or they're triggered and stressed all the time. So they're out of balance. What's the point of being successful if you lose your wife and kids in the process? And we did an exercise that's going to be in our Empowered Man app we're launching, where we have your yearly vision, and then we have your quarterly targets, your monthly targets, your weekly targets, your daily targets. So you know where you're going to be a year from now. You know where you're going to be at the end of the quarter, and we reverse engineer every day. So then every day you got 3-4 things you're doing. And so many of these guys were like, I've never done this before. So like as men, we build success by chance. Like we build a business, we build a relationship, and we leave it up to chance. And one of the most powerful tools that's helped me is being the most organized person I know. Like I'm constantly checking my calendar. I'm scheduling things in, and I live by my calendar. So I think the message for anyone at home right now is, if your relationship's fucked, if you're not having enough sex, if you're stressed, if you're triggered, or even if things are amazing, make the time. Like we hear this from our clients, I don't have enough time. No, you're not making enough time. I don't have enough time is allocating responsibility to the rest of the world. We have 10,080 minutes in a week. Grab a fucking calendar, do your exercise. What am I doing? How long is it taking? What can I cut out? And start scheduling the things that matter, and build your business and build your career around the things that matter. Put in a morning routine, put in your date night that you haven't had for 3 fucking years, put in time with the children, and then fit everything else in outside of that, right? Or inside of that. There's a principle, I forgot what it's called. It's something law, Parkinson's law or some shit. And it's this idea that tasks take as long as the time you give to fill them, right? So start scheduling this shit in. If you've listened to this today and you're like, yeah, I probably need to be part of a community. I need a coach. I need to learn how to communicate. Go and find someone who can give you a plan, schedule that shit in. That's exactly what we do at Empowered Man. Like we have the roadmap. We do a year's worth of growth in 8 weeks. So I think we'll leave it at that. And one thing I'll say as well before you do your final part is momentum.
Yeah.
Momentum's a powerful force. You can't spell momentum without men.
Yeah.
So as a man, you get to take little actions brick by brick, build that momentum. And a year from now, you can be a drastically different human, father, business owner, husband, partner, but you can look in the mirror and actually respect the man staring back at you. But it requires action, and no one can fucking do it for you. So pretend like there's a gun to your child's head, your wife's head, and if you don't take action, that trigger's getting pulled. Use that pain, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Anything else you want to leave us with, bro? I know you got your personal brand, so we'll drop all the links down below. I know you're building businesses, helping a lot of people. Anything you want to add to the listener at home right now who wants to change, but they're just on that fence?
Yeah, I do. I want to say this to men as well, because it's a topic out there. It's about leadership, and if you're a male and you're a leader and no one's following, you're just going for a walk.
That's fucking gold, brother.
Make sure you got some people following you.
Yeah, we'll follow you as well. Put your links in the description. Make sure you give them a follow. Thank you so much for jumping on, brother. Appreciate you. Have an amazing day.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you're getting value from this podcast episode and you want to learn how you can have a better relationship, a better marriage, you can be a better father, husband, the man you know your family deserves, then it's very fucking hard to do that just by listening and getting fed information. Sure, this is valuable, but what's much more valuable is having a custom roadmap and a custom plan. And that's exactly what we do here at The Empowered Man. So if you want to learn how to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, and find work-life balance, then that's exactly what we want to help you with. We'll help you make more money, working less hours, have that life you deserve by becoming unfuckwithable. Just tap the link down below in the description and go and book a coaching session with my Empowered Man team. On that session, we'll build your custom Empowered Man roadmap to fix your marriage, reconnect with your children, find work-life balance, and have the life you deserve. Click the link down below right now.